This has Pittsburgh Penguins fans absolutely fired up. As we get an update on two Pittsburgh Penguins in particular, we're going to break that down, as well as an update on a former Pittsburgh Penguin fan favorite and some implications this has on next season, because things are going to be different next season. We're going to break down why in this episode of Penguins Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 70% of you who watch these videos are not actually subscribed to the channel. So if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with your Pittsburgh Penguins, make sure to go down below, hit that free subscribe button. And again, you get to stay up to date with everything Pittsburgh Penguins. But Mark, let's dive right into it. We have a lot to get to today. And let's start with Crosby and Malkin were named to the NHL quarter century team. And this is from Kelsey and, of course, the NHL. And a great accomplishment for both of them. I mean, we are quite literally still witnessing history. I know Evgeni Malkin had a down season, if you want to call it that, as well. But Sidney Crosby is going to be 38, not slowing down whatsoever on the century team as well. I mean, absolutely, or quarter century team, I should say, top 25 players of the last 25 years. So what do you make of this? I mean, we are still witnessing greatness in Pittsburgh. And I think that, we're going to get to it later in the episode, but I think things are going to be very different next season. They might not make the playoffs, but I feel like there's going to be a bit of a culture shift here.
I mean, Crosby himself should have been named the player of the last quarter century on how good he is setting records, going out and putting up historical numbers. But the big thing is this is a huge accomplishment to two players that have been dominant since they entered the league and just happen to both be on the same two, Batman and Robin. They have been outstanding in the Pittsburgh Penguins organization. Crosby will go down as one of the greatest players of all time, not only just this century, but the big thing is looking at how good Pittsburgh, us, the fans, have had with these two and showing that they can still dominate at their age is quite amazing to see, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can see some of the stats here since 05-06 when obviously Crosby and Malkin jumped into the league. Absolutely fantastic. Malkin now kind of showing his age at 38, didn't have a great season, but like you said, Sidney Crosby continuing to have an insane season. He officially broke Wayne Gretzky's record this season of obviously 19 point per game seasons in a row. I mean, just what Crosby has been able to do consistently is absolutely incredible, like league-wide, if you're looking at that. So the one other thing I wanted to touch on before we get into some World Championship stuff and why I think next year will be different for the Pittsburgh Penguins is Marc-Andre Fleury was also named to this team. So the Pittsburgh Penguins have three players that were named to the quarter-century team. Marc-Andre Fleury, of course, playing right now with Sidney Crosby, a feel-good story. Mark, I have to say, I think Marc-Andre Fleury is probably my favorite goaltender of all time, and I know a lot of older Penguins fans or older hockey fans that are watching this might be like, what is this guy talking about? But I think he's probably one of my favorite goaltenders of all time. So to get him or to see him get into this list as well is absolutely fantastic. What did you think of Marc-Andre Fleury and obviously his career too? Because, he just retired, obviously a longtime Pittsburgh Penguin, won multiple Stanley Cups in Pittsburgh. So what do you think of Marc-Andre Fleury obviously being named to this list as well?
Well, I mean, math making it makes total sense. We've seen him be dominant and obviously not at the same level we've seen in Pittsburgh with most of the teams, even going into playing a playoff game this year for the Minnesota Wild. Math joined the list of big names in Roberto Luongo, Marty Brodeur. These guys all deserve to be here. And seeing Math still continue to play at the World Championships, playing with Minnesota, of course, he is retiring. And we might see him play again because he's joking about becoming the E-Bug. We could see Math continue on, and he is, without a doubt, one of the greatest goaltenders of all time. And without a doubt, probably the top goaltender in Penguins history.
Yeah, I think we need to see him as the E-Bug next year, actually. Like, after retirement, that's probably what he should be doing, just in case somebody gets hurt. I think Penguins fans would like to see him as a Pittsburgh Penguin one last time. And I hope, personally, that he ends up signing a one-day contract to retire a Pittsburgh Penguin. I think that would be the correct course of action. Obviously, he joined Sidney Crosby at the Worlds, which is happening right now. It's already underway. And, he was talking about why he actually went to the World Championships. And he said, I went home and the kids were crazy, so I said, I got to keep playing. And that was Marc-Andre Fleury on why he's continuing to play. But on a serious note, he did say that and he was joking in the press conference. But obviously, I think he wanted to take the opportunity to play for Canada for the first time at the Worlds and play with his former captain, Sidney Crosby. And Sidney Crosby, a couple things here from the World Hockey Championships. He's wearing the same neck guard. I wanted your thoughts on this too, Mark. He's wearing the same neck guard that he wore over 20 years ago in junior with Rimouski and at the World Hockey, the World Junior Championships back then too. So we've seen before Sidney Crosby is a creature of habit. He's throwing his weight around in these games as well. He quite literally punched somebody's helmet off of their head, which I've never seen before. So he's mixing it up. We saw it in the obviously the Four Nations face-off too. Sidney Crosby wants to play meaningful games again, and I think that he is going to lead this young Pittsburgh Penguins team that has all this skill, is going to have a high draft pick this year as well, assuming that they keep it, which I think they will. But he is going to lead this team to, I think, a playoff berth again before he retires and his play dips off. I don't know how you feel about this, but I think that he is going to, try and lead this team in the right direction before he rides off into the sunset.
I mean, just touching on the equipment first, we see the equipment coming back from '03. The funny thing with this is Macklin Celebrini, who is playing on the line right now, is not as old as Crosby's equipment, which is just mind-blowing to look at as a thing. But the big thing with Crosby, a lot of people say, yes, he's going to slow down. And yes, we've noticed a tiny bit of him slowing down. He's still a point-per-game player. He's in his late 30s, but seeing him continue to play at the World Championship shows that we think we might have more time with Crosby in his peak. And I'm going to say peak because he is not slowing down. And it's almost crazy to see. I think the big thing is, and Dubas, yes, has talked about the retool and not a rebuild, looking to make this team better. If Crosby continues to dominate, if he makes everyone once again better around him, you add a bit to the defense, get a goaltender that can stop a puck within the first 3 shots. I think this is a Penguins team that could shock a lot of people going into next year's playoffs by making it in. And once you're in the playoffs, Crosby can do crazy things to continue winning.
Absolutely. And you can see here, like you mentioned, he's working with younger players, Macklin Celebrini, obviously Adam Fantilli as well. So, like you mentioned too, some of the equipment he's wearing is quite literally older than these players, which is crazy. But I think that's a good point. When you look at guys like Rucker McGroarty, who are coming up, who's going to be in his second NHL season, right? He's going to want to make an impact. Ville Koivunen as well, who had a very impressive end of the season being called up from Wilkes-Barre Scranton. I mean, he's going to have an impressive season as well. So they have some pieces already in place. They have some pieces that, we haven't seen yet that they have drafted. They have a very high pick in this year's draft as well, which is being considered as maybe a weaker draft, but still you're going to get a good player that should develop into an NHL player with that draft pick. So there's a lot to like in regards to that. Obviously, Sidney Crosby hasn't taken his foot off the gas either. He got a slashing penalty and was absolutely giving it to the officials the other day. So he hasn't lost that fire. We saw it in the Four Nations. We're seeing it with Canada right now. I think he's going to come in with a different mindset next season and be like, listen, I have to play a different role at this point. A little bit. He's going to continue to do his thing, put up points, and be that guy for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But I think he's going to take on even more of a leadership role for the organization as a player still to try and, cultivate a winning culture once again with some of the younger guys. So I think it's going to pay off huge for the Pittsburgh Penguins. But any final thoughts, Mark, on all of everything we discussed today? Because it's a lot of feel-good stories, and I'm glad that Marc-Andre Fleury, before officially retiring, is getting to play with Sidney Crosby again. I think all Pittsburgh Penguins fans can appreciate that.
I mean, this season, or off season, I should say, is going to be crazy. I think a big thing, if we see Crosby, Math, these guys go out to win a championship with the World Championships, we could see Crosby come back hungrier than ever. If he's like, hey, we can win away, why don't we come back, build on this? He's not slowing down. In my opinion, yes, this offseason is going to be a rocky one. We're going to move on from names that we really like, names that we want to move on from, might end up staying, but I would not be shocked, and I'm going to kind of go back on it. Crosby is hungry enough, especially if they can get this win, to make Dubas kind of look at this as a, hey, why don't we try to compete again, which might be a little soon, but I would not be shocked if Crosby got another championship in Pittsburgh before he retired.
I think that's what he wants because he doesn't want to leave Pittsburgh, and I think that a lot of fans are very happy about it. I think some are split, obviously, would rather some, assets back for him. But I think that there is a world where they're going to make the playoffs again before he retires, and he wants to bring them up to that level. So we'll see what Kyle Dubas has in store as well, because I think him and Mike Sullivan also had, varying opinions on how long this retool is going to take. So it's going to be very interesting. But let us know what you think in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything Pittsburgh Penguins.